Assalamu alaikum. Are you been trying to convert to Islam or you have already converted into Islam? Please don't pass. Just watch the video. I want to share with you a particular video of a Chinese man who has converted in Islam and the kind of hardship that he has passed through before he has overcome them. And please, before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if this is your first time, and also like and comment on this video. Now let's watch about this man, his story. He's trying to share eyes to his story, what he passes through when he converted into Islam. So let's watch the video below.
My name is Nemir. I'm from Beijing, China. So we know about Muslims in China very little. We just know they don't eat pork and they wear these white caps. In China, you're just not exposed that much to Islam. So one day, I became curious about Arabic. So I just straight up walked into one of the masjids. I walked inside and I met the brother who was cleaning. So I told him I wanted an Arabic and things like that. He was like, wait here, Sheikh is gonna come in 30 minutes. So I waited in the back, like in the prayer area. In the back there were some chairs. And it was time for Maghrib prayer, the sunset prayer, and then people gathered for it. They made the adhan and everything. And this old guy, he pushed me because he thought you're way too young to be praying sitting down. And so he pushed me into the rows. And so I just was peer pressured into praying a Maghrib prayer alongside with everyone. You know, I thought I was here. I might as well try to make it spiritual. I closed my eyes, following the movements. I was seeing people move their hands. And at that night, it just something, I guess, clicked.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome, brother.
Thanks very much.
What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Nemir. It's Arabic for tiger, but I'm Chinese and I'm from Beijing, China.
What was your experience like growing up?
In China, it's a particular situation because of the one-child policy. I was the only child with my parents. We kind of had a nucleus family, just the three of us, growing up in the central part of Beijing, which was very historical, very central. We were like 10 minutes away from the Forbidden Palace, very traditional, conservative upbringing. And in school, I was there until high school. Then it was mostly just kind of secular public education. Yeah.
Did you always believe in God or did you come from a religious background?
In Chinese culture, we say sometimes things like 谋事在人，成事在天. For example, if your planning is done by the people or the human, and whether you're given success or not, it depends on heaven. So heaven is brought out and thought of as a monotheistic Lord of the universe, but we don't really put much commitment to it because obviously there's all these Buddhist temples and different idols that people worship. So growing up, I was not religious, and in fact, I was kind of anti-religious because of the secular upbringing. And, in high school, I started just reading things. So even when I was 8 years old, my parents used to buy me these books and I would finish them like one per week, things like that. And one of the books they bought me was the stories of the Bible. So I started reading all the stories. Then I started in middle school, started reading the Bible itself. And I was just reading it. There was no church. I didn't go to church. I just read the Bible, and it just seemed like a nice story of God sending prophet Jesus to earth to teach the children of Israel. I didn't know that much about who Jews were or all the history behind it. But after reading it, I refused to prostrate to Buddha when my parents used to take me to temple like once a year or something like this. I just refused. There was something kind of naturally that I felt that I should not do. There's no reasoning behind it. And so even though, I didn't really believe in Christianity, I was just, to me, like a nice set of stories. There was no proofs in the Bible itself to prove its veracity and its truthfulness. And so I never believed in it. And later on, with the scandals coming out of the Catholic Church, I became very anti-religious. It kind of turned me off religion in general.
How did you first hear about Islam, or what attracted you to it?
So we know about Muslims in China very little. We just know they don't eat pork and they wear these white caps, and that's about it. In China, you're just not exposed that much to Islam, even though there are more Muslims in China than in the United States. But for percentage-wise, because population-wise, China is a huge country, and it's hard to get to know them. I learned more about Islam when I came here. So I came here after high school to do my bachelor's at New York University. And for some basic classes, we had to take cultures and contexts and texts and ideas. We read a book, in one of them, The Travels of Ibn Battuta. He was a famous Muslim traveler from modern-day Morocco, and he traveled 4 times the distance as Marco Polo. But nobody talks about him because he was a Muslim. So it just seemed to me like a very fascinating world that he lived in, which I just found fascinating. And I wrote a paper on it. And if you read my paper today, you would think that I was Muslim already, because I was saying, oh, look at the Islamic Golden Age, how that's such a different way to live as a society than the materialistic, kind of capitalistic, selfish, individualistic society that we live in today. And so we got to learn a lot about why the Islamic world or the Muslim world is the way it is today, which stemmed from historical contexts that happened a century ago. How, Sykes-Picot Agreement, breaking up of the Ottoman Empire, colonization of most of the Muslim world, and coming into that post-World War II New World Order, the historical aspect of that I got to know a lot more on. So it expanded my worldview in that before I was thinking some of the culture or some of the political entities that I knew, like for example, Iran, represented the religion of Islam, which I realized was a false assumption. And I was able to kind of distinguish between politics, culture, and religion a lot better after I took that class, after I did more research and learned more about it, because I was forced to. We had to write essays and things and read. And so that was a very eye-opening for me.
Tell me when you realized Islam was the truth.
So that moment is after I took Shahada.
When did you take your Shahada, and how was that experience?
Yeah, I took Shahada and embraced Islam in the junior year of bachelor's when I was at New York University, 3rd year. And so I'll give a brief rundown. The first year I came here, fresh out of the plane, as it were, it was a culture shock because I was brought up in a fairly conservative culture compared to here. Obviously, with culture, there's no objective justification for it. So in first year, I became a little bit more assimilated into the American culture. The second year, I realized this has gone way too far, especially in New York City. And so I kind of pulled back and became more conservative. I became kind of Chinese nationalistic, all these kind of safety points that I ran back into. And then the second year, or going into the 3rd year, I was living with an old professor who had an apartment right on campus in Manhattan, and I shared like half the rent. Only problem was we had bed bugs, and he was also a hoarder. And so it was extremely difficult, almost impossible to get rid of the bed bugs. I was fighting them for a month until finally I just gave up and I took everything. I found a roommate. We brought in a truck, fumigated everything. I moved to New Jersey, in Jersey City, near the Journal Square area. So the bed bugs drove me to an apartment in New Jersey. So that property, which I ended up living in for 2.5 years during my bachelor's, to go to school, I had to pass by 2 masjids on my way to the PATH train station in Journal Square. So you can commute into the city from New Jersey. And so at some point I became culturally curious. I was first curious about the Russian culture. It was mostly about language, to be honest. Like I knew Chinese, and I know English. And what about this whole alphabet of, the Cyrillic? So I learned that. And Russian was way too hard. They have like 7 tenses, and even Russians can't figure them out. So I was like, why should I keep trying? So I stopped. And then I turned more to the language of Arabic. I actually gave myself the name Nemir, which means tiger, a week before I took Shahada. So I was learning Arabic on YouTube at the time. I was passing by those two masjid. I didn't know they were masjid because it's just some Arabic, and then it said like Islamic Cultural Learning Center or something like that. And I started copying down the Arabic part, and I started translating them, interpreting, learning more about it. And I gave myself the name Tiger because in Chinese culture, I was born in the year of the tiger. And my kind of nickname my parents gave me was, is xiao xiao, which means like the sound that a baby tiger makes. So I just gave myself that. So one day I became curious about Arabic. So I just straight up walked into one of the masjids. It was right outside of the Journal Square Path train station. It's called Masjid As-Salam. I walked inside. It was like maybe 30 minutes before Maghrib time. And I met the brother who was cleaning. So I told him I wanted an Arabic and things like that. He was like, wait here, Sheikh is going to come in 30 minutes. So I went to the musalla and I waited in the back, like in the prayer area. In the back, there were some chairs. I was not used to sitting on the floor, so I sat in one of the chairs. And it was time for Maghrib prayer, the sunset prayer, and then people gathered for it. They made the adhan and everything. And it was time to pray. And this old guy, he pushed me because he thought you're way too young to be praying sitting down. And so he pushed me into the rows. And so I just was peer pressured into praying a Maghrib prayer alongside with everyone with no wudu. You know, I thought I was here. I might as well try to make it spiritual. I closed my eyes, try to listen to the recitation of the Quran, following the movements. I was seeing people move their hands. And it was a Thursday night. And this masjid, mashallah, had a great tradition. It was outside of Ramadan. It was, in fact, the 8th of Sha'ban, 1 month before Ramadan. They was offering Mondays and Thursday iftars because, you know, sunnah to fast on Mondays and Thursdays. And so they invited me to the iftar. And I got to know so many people. They talked to me. They were very warm, very genuine compared to the people I meet in school. Because to give a little background, I went in the Stern School of Business, which is under New York University. So a lot of my fellow students are business majors. They would be nice to you in the face, like, hi, how you doing? But in essence, they weren't that close to you. We weren't making real connections, which is kind of nice in a fake sense. And so I didn't have any kind of idea of how genuine people can be, how genuine relationships can be between people until I met these Muslim brothers during that iftar on Thursday, 6th of Sha'ban, 5 years ago. And so I was speaking with the sheikh also a little bit. The sheikh is Egyptian, doesn't understand a word of English, so I had to have translations between us. But before that, I kind of knew about the 5 pillars of Islam. And one of them I really liked was the zakat because it's a compulsory charity. And so coming from kind of a socialist background, obviously we knew communism, everyone having the same amount of wealth doesn't work. But socialism, or the idea behind it, is to give a safety net to people. You want people who are less fortunate in society to do well. And that really made me like Islam a lot more, the zakat aspect. You have to give compulsory charity, give to people, help the poor. So that's what I told the sheikh. And that night, it just something, I guess, clicked. And I just said, I want to take Shahada. I had very little knowledge. I didn't even intend on taking the Shahada when going in. And I thought I was just going to learn some Arabic and things like that. And I just did it with the sheikh. And I had very little knowledge at the time. To give you an example, people were telling me to finish your plate because it's Prophet Sunnah. I thought there was a prophet whose name was Sunnah. So I had very little knowledge at that time. So I would say, like, afterwards, I started learning more and more about Islam. I realized it's like kind of like I stumbled onto the true religion while I didn't really intend to. Yeah.
Tell me about the moment when you realized Islam was for you.
So this moment was kind of a journey that came after I took Shahada and accepted Islam. I started researching more about it, learning about the Quran, reading the Quran, and how I juxtaposed that with my experience with the Bible back in middle school and high school was that I found proofs, many proofs, innumerable proofs of the veracity and truthfulness of the Quran within the Quran. You don't find that in the Bible. So starting with the scientific miracles, all these things, descriptions of the embryo's development in the fetus, detailed in the Quran, stars' movements, how the sun and the moon travel in an orbit, the planets, how the universe is expanding, all in the Quran that was revealed almost 1500 years ago. very amazing. I never encountered a religion whose scripture was like this before, that it actually had proofs, because before, going by the standards that I had, I guess psychological, subconscious standards I had set while researching Christianity, was that it's just something you have to take a leap of faith to believe in. Kind of blindly, as it were. So therefore, you can kind of pick and choose. Like, I like this part, I like that part, so I'm gonna do this. But the Quran really shook me in the sense that its proofs are innumerable, and is concrete, and is evidence on so many levels. Now, obviously, with more knowledge, I know about the linguistic miracle of the Quran, how no human is able to even come up with a verse and a surah like it, right? So, and the scientific miracles of the Quran. And when you look into the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his mission, his history, so many miracles that happened, and how he by himself, logically speaking, was not doing anything except to deliver this true message from God, that's when it really clicked.
How did your life change after becoming a Muslim?
180. Because I'll tell you, before I became Muslim, I was going to business school and everything. My whole viewpoint at that stage was that after death, I will cease to exist. I will just be non-existent. So I'm going to maximize the pleasure I can gain in this world. The purpose of any of these, business school, career, these are things that will just go away as you die. It stops at the end of your grave. And so my life, my worldview was that, there's no point after death. So that's why I'm saying completely 180 after I became Muslim, because our worldview now, our goal in life extends beyond, in fact, way beyond the doors of our graves. It extends into the eternal hereafter, right? If we really think about the idea of eternity, really internalize it, when you see how tremendously valuable it is compared to how worthless this life is if it's sought for by itself. So that's the main change I had after becoming Muslim, is that my goal became eternity and hereafter oriented. And I feel like I have meaning in this life, in that I can turn what would have been a worthless moment, a worthless day, or a worthless week, a worthless month, a worthless year, a worthless lifetime, into multiplied eternal rewards in the hereafter. And also that extends to relationships too. Like, my relationship with you is not going to be superficial, like as if we were both students in business school or we were working for the same company, because we expect to see each other in paradise by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We expect to see each other. So our relationship is now, its scope is towards eternity. So that gives so much meaning and value to the relationships that we built, and how we're able to build community also. Yeah.
What was your biggest challenge after becoming a Muslim?
I was very lazy since I was a kid, because I'm the only child. I was very spoiled. And so it kind of made me very lazy. And I used to watch this cartoon when I was a kid, the Japanese cartoon Doraemon. It was about this kind of magical cat that can pull anything out of its hoodie pocket. And so I kind of was daydreaming, like, I don't need to put in the work and things will just happen, things like this. So I